Hello fellow residents of Melissa. I'd like to take a second real fast to discuss with you how the city works and what is required to happen in order for a developer or a business owner to come in and open a business or start something here in Melissa. It's actually pretty plain and simple. There's a planning and zoning board, also known as P&Z, or many times abbreviated by P&Z. Basically, this is the board that's in charge of kind of getting the first initial questions, trying to see who's doing what, making sure that their architecture, their landscape, their building, their fire lanes, all their safety issues, that everything is kind of up to code and according to the rules set forth in the zoning ordinance, which is basically a book of rules, so to speak, that developers have to comply with in order to develop here in the city. That's important to know because that's kind of the first issue that happens. Next, they basically planning and zoning recommends approval or denial to the city council. It goes to a city council meeting. The city council says we either accept or whatever the approval or denial, and they're allowed to have their own open forums. They're allowed to have discussions. Citizens and residents are always allowed there and can voice their public opinion. And unfortunately, because everybody's so busy, it's hard to get up there. We realize this. So what I want to do is bring this to you. From city council, it's basically voted on. If it's approved, then they're good to go. If it's denied, it can kind of go back to rethinking, but there's a time span after it's denied that they cannot come back with the same question, the same issue. The developer cannot. However, they can also ask for it to be tabled. Tabling just means it gets moved on to next month's agenda, and it's kind of time for further discussion, things to be looked at, and this is trying to keep it from being denied. Like if there's just one or two items, this will kind of help keep it from being denied, and they give somebody the benefit of the doubt. So let's start here. This is planning and zoning minutes. By the way, you can get this at www.cityofmelissa.com. On the left-hand side, click on Secretary, and then you'll notice you can click on any of the minutes, the meeting minutes from planning and zoning or city council. But let's take a look at this one. This is January 15, 2009. A man named Mr. Neal basically had come in, and Mr. Neal is the owner of a tile company out of San Antonio, wants to develop here or wants to occupy a building that's owned in Melissa, and he came before P&Z asking for many variances. You can ask for a variance on ordinances, and what that does is say, hey, I realize that we're not playing by your rules, but is there any way in this situation you can help me out and not let me do it? If it's like you don't want to plant a tree or a certain type of tree, or you don't want to do certain things, that's one item. But to come in with life safety issues, that's something that really needs to be taken a look at. That's not something taken lightly, and for good reason, because my family or your family could be the one in the building when it goes up in flames, and I certainly don't want that. And so I think it's important that we have somebody in the city to take a second look at all this before we just allow anybody to go build whatever they want. So real fast, I just want to go through this meeting, and like I said, this is Mr. Neal. He came in asking for a variance on a setback requirements, and you can read here item number 6. That's important to know because, first of all, there's all sorts of setbacks even on your home. You'll notice and it's set by the city. This is for certain things so they can put utility lines, future expansions, green space. There's many reasons why there'd be a setback. Obviously, he didn't want to play by this rule. That's fine. That's really not that big of an issue. It was denied by P&Z or recommended for denial. So we'll move on to number 7. He asked for variance to the 80% masonry requirement for existing buildings. Now, P&Z asked this only because it keeps the integrity of the city up. If you look at city of McKinney, Allen, Plano, you'll notice that they all have nicer looking buildings, especially like here on the west side of 75. You'll notice that many people have 100% brick and stone. What it does is it keeps people from going the cheap route and coming in and building little wooden or hardy plank outhouses here on Highway 121 or Highway 5, and it just keeps the city looking nice. It's a long-term deal because in 10, 15, 20 years it still looks nice as opposed to falling apart, needing repainting, that sort of deal. So planning and zoning denied this variance as well. There's a reason that's there. Number 8 is they denied a variance on fire flow requirements. It's important to know that Melissa is served by 2 water companies. This property here is North Collin County, and basically they didn't have the right amount of flow or the right pressure in the line in order to get the fire flow requirement that has to be met by the city. This is a huge life safety issue because if they can't get a fire flow or they can't get the right flow out of a hydrant, if that building's going up in flames and anybody's family's in there, we want to know that the fire trucks can get in there and get that flame put out and get people out safely. This becomes a life safety issue and is very important, and it's taken very seriously with the people that work with the city. and for good reason, because this is not the city we want people to have issues with in the sense of safety. If you look at, skip to number 9, let's look at the variance that he asked for the 150-foot coverage requirement of all buildings. This is really important because a firefighter's hose that they carry on the truck is 150 foot in length max. And so a lot of times on larger shopping centers or bigger buildings, such as an 8,600 square foot building, you'll see fire lanes on the sides and around the back. You'll see a fire lane. It's always striped in red and has fire lane written on it in white. Every city has it. It's a big safety issue because we want to know that the fire truck can get behind this building in the event that it's maybe burning on the other side. If they can only get to the front and the fire's in the back, and it's 800 feet away, and they have two 150-foot hoses, somebody's going to be in trouble. And unfortunately, I don't want it to be you, your family, or anybody else. And so this is a very important rule. You need to make the extra pavement or create the extra pavement around the building in order to make this comply. That's another life safety issue not taken lightly. Number 10, he asked for a variance for the plating requirements, the fire lane dedication. That's another issue because we want to make sure that we have the right width on the fire lane and the right radius, and you need to dedicate it to the city because basically the city is doing you a favor, and we need to get those fire trucks in and out appropriately. More importantly, in the event of a catastrophe of some sort, emergency, we want to know that the fire trucks can get in and people can get out. So that's important. If you look at number 12, he asked for another variance for signage permits. Well, that's just ridiculous. You're asking for variances. You aren't wanting to play by any of the rules. So this is to say this was moved to a notion to say no. It was recommended for denial, and then it goes to City Council. Here on City Council is a week later. You can see that. Basically, you'll notice that it goes through, and starting at item number 4, they asked to be tabled and were denied. You'll look at item 5, 6, 7, and 8, and these are the same issues that were voted on by Planning and Zoning. Basically, were all denied by City Council. And I want you to notice who the motion was made by and who it was seconded by. Nowhere in here does Mayor Dorman ever get the opportunity to say yes or no on this. This is City Council. These are residents. These are people you work with trying to keep you safe. They voted no. So why in the world Mr. Neal is trying to target the mayor because he's angry and his feelings are hurt, I don't have any clue. Because you can clearly see here, black and white, it's up at the city, go find your copy. You can go see that this is not something that's done by the mayor. This is something that's done by a group of people, first of all, seconded to another group of people, and he was voted no. Unfortunately, we can't allow somebody to come in here with all these variances and creating and building an unsafe work environment for somebody, creating unsafe issues for somebody's family, and overall, he's not upholding the integrity that we stand for here in Melissa. And unfortunately, this guy, Mr. Neal, is very upset. He obviously is posting things on YouTube and incorrectly posting things on YouTube. But what I wanted to do more importantly was give you a chance to see how the city works. I want you to understand what has to happen, and that Mayor Dorman, or any mayor, is no more can have no more authority than the people below him allow him to have. And in this situation, it's clear to see that they did not want him to build here. We would love to have his tax money, of course, but not at the risk of the safety of people's lives here in Melissa. It's not worth that much. No money is worth that much. And that's pretty much how the city feels about this. I hope you've learned something today, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask the city or go to the city and talk to them. They'll be more than happy to enlighten you on what happens in detail, or you can request copies of anything you want under the Public Information Act. I hope you learned something. Have a great day.